and welcome to another bookmas video. Today I thought we'd go through some of my winter and Christmas book recommendations. I'm going to start off with the winter book recommendations that I have. These aren't necessarily all set at winter time. It's just the vibe of them I think would be perfect to read during winter. And I know that not everybody wants to read holiday or Christmas books during December, so I thought I'd give you some other wintry book recommendations as well. So the first one we have is The Hike by Lucy Clarke. Lucy Clarke also wrote The Castaways, which is a book that I rave about. I really enjoyed that book, and this one would literally be perfect to read during the winter time. I really love the way Lucy Clarke writes. It's so fast paced, so easy to read, and I just like the way she creates tension and just tells a thriller. This one follows a group of friends and they basically take a trip every year together, and this year they've decided to do this famous hike in the Norwegian wild, and it basically follows them going up this mountain. But I feel like there's a lot going on with this one because each of the characters kind of has something that's revealed about their background or their past, and then the actual place that they're at where they're doing this hike, there's a bit of a mystery that happened in the past with a woman that went missing. So we've got a lot to uncover in this book, and the thing that I absolutely loved about it was the atmosphere. Because they're literally hiking up this mountain, we spend most of the time going up this mountain. It's so wintry and cold feeling, and then you've also got this mystery side, which I feel like thriller just works perfectly in the autumn winter time. But you've got this mystery that kind of keeps you on your toes, and you're just trying to work out what happened, and it's just such a vibe. This book is such a vibe, and I just absolutely love the way the atmosphere was done in this, and I think it would be perfect to read during winter. Next we have In My Dreams I Hold a Knife by Ashley Winstead. This is a dark academia psychological thriller, and this one I think works in autumn or winter time. It just has a real dark, sinister feeling to it. It follows 6 friends who all met at university, and something really tragic and dark happened when they were at uni together, and it goes back and forth between the present timeline where they're all having a reunion and also trying to work out what actually happened the night that it all kicked off, and then it also follows 10 years earlier, which is them at uni, and it kind of uncovers what actually happened the night that everything went wrong. This one took me a little bit to actually get into, but once I was in this story I was in it and I literally flew through it, and this was a 5-star read for me purely based on the ending of this book. I cannot even explain the feeling that the end of this book gave me. I just felt like empty. I just felt like I was staring at a wall, like I didn't know what to do with myself. I didn't know how to move on from this book. Like I said, there is something quite dark and sinister feeling about this story, but it's definitely one that I have thought about since I finished reading it, and it's one that I would definitely recommend for the autumn winter time. And especially if you like dark academia books, or you're really wanting to try dark academia, I think this one would be a really good one to start with. Next we have Shatter Me. This is a YA dystopian, kind of got a bit of romance in there, probably not in this first book but in the series as a whole. I don't actually know how many there are altogether, but I know that it's a really long series. I've only read the first book, but I am interested to see what the rest of the series is like, and to maybe get the second book at some point. So this one follows our main girl Juliet, and her touch is fatal. Basically anything that she touches dies, and she's basically being held captive in this world, and she's basically locked in a cell. And the re-establishment, which is basically like the dictatorship that is running the world at this time, wants to use her as a weapon, and she really doesn't want to do that, and she's trying to find her own freedom and trying to escape this captivity. Because it's YA, it's so fast paced and so easy to read, and I think the way that this is written is so interesting and just keeps you hooked the entire time, and you just feel very connected to Julia as a character right from the get-go, because you're very much in her head and you feel like you're just with her the whole time. There's something about this one that just feels very wintry to me, and I don't know what it is. I don't know whether it's because we spend a lot of time with her in the cell and she's held captive. I don't know whether it's the kind of dystopian feeling about the world, because it's kind of a world that's all crumbling. I don't know specifically what it is. It's just a feeling. It's just a feeling I get with this book that I think would be really great to read during the winter time, and it's just very quick and easy to read, and if you need something that's just going to be really fast paced, then I would definitely recommend this. Next we have Rock Paper Scissors by Alice Feeney. This is a psychological thriller. Basically follows a married couple who win a trip away, and this trip is basically spending a weekend in the Scottish Highlands. But when they actually get there, something weird is going on, something slightly darker is happening, and it's basically them uncovering what that is and following them on this romantic trip that has taken a dark turn. This one, similar to The Hike, has a really good atmosphere in terms of like where it's set and the weather of it, and it just feels very windy and cold, and I think there might be snow in this at some point. I could be wrong, but I remember it feeling very cold and like they were in the middle of nowhere. I really like the way Alice Feeney tells a story as well, and I really like her writing style. It's very readable, very fast paced, and it's the kind of writing where at some points you want to underline as well, which I feel like is so rare in a thriller. But just some of the way she words things, I'm like, that's so nicely written. And it just makes you want to underline it and like to annotate it. And I just liked how this had that feeling of not everything is as it seems, but you don't really know what's going on. And it's also a very twisty story as well. And then we have Never Lie by Frida McFadden. Obviously it couldn't be a video of mine without me mentioning Frida McFadden, but this one specifically is perfect for winter because it follows this newly married couple who are going to look around this house that they're really interested in buying, and when they get there the estate agent isn't there yet, and they end up going into this house and getting snowed in. And the house that they're in used to belong to a psychiatrist who went missing and was never found. And while they're in this house, they basically come across this room full of tapes between the psychiatrist and her clients, and they start listening to the tapes, and it has such an eerie feeling to it. I really like how eerie and unsettled you feel throughout this whole thing. It really keeps you on the edge of your seat, and it's literally a book that you cannot put down because you just want to know what's going on. And it's just such an addictive read because it's got kind of transcripts where they're listening to the tapes. It really makes it fly by when you're reading it, like it makes it so fast paced, and you feel like you're slowly uncovering the truth along with them as well. And this is definitely one that is actually set at winter time as well, so it definitely has that kind of cold, dark feeling to it. And then I have a romance recommendation. I feel like a lot of the romances that I read are either set in summer or very much give summer vibes. So I've actually only got one kind of wintry recommendation that I would recommend. But this one isn't necessarily set at winter, it just kind of gives me that vibe, and that's If He Had Been With Me by Laura Nowlin. This is one of my favourite books. Autumn and Finney have a special place in my heart. I literally adore them, and this story, ever since I finished it, has never quite left me. This is a YA childhood friends to lovers type romance. Basically follows Autumn and Finney, and they've been best friends forever, but when they get to high school they become a bit more separated, and we kind of find out why they are, and then it follows them kind of finding their way back to each other. And it's just such a lovely story, but also so heartbreaking. And when I tell you that these characters literally have not left me, like I still think about them. I really want to reread this at some point and annotate it, because I read this really early on when I was first getting into reading, and it was back when I hadn't started annotating any of my books, but I would really love to go back and annotate this because there were so many good lines that I would just love to go back and underline and highlight. This just has a real kind of colder feeling to it, and that's why I always associate it with like an autumn or a winter book. The thing that I also absolutely love about this is how it captured the feeling of having a premonition. It was done so well in here, and like the foreshadowing was so good. And I just absolutely love how this story was told, and I love Autumn and Finney. I love them. Okay, moving on to Christmas book recommendations. I have 4 here in total. These are the ones I read last year, and they're my favourite ones out of the Christmas books that I read last year. The first one feels kind of random since I learned where this book was actually from, but we have This Winter, which is actually a novella from the Heartstopper series, which I didn't realise at the time that I read this. Heartstopper I haven't read yet, and I definitely think you can read this without reading the Heartstopper series, but I think it would probably hit slightly different if you were to read it in the order that it's kind of meant to be read. I haven't read the Heartstopper series yet, and I still really enjoyed this book. The Heartstopper series is one of the series that is very much on my radar at the minute, and I really want to get that series at some point. If you don't know anything about the Heartstopper series, it's basically a graphic novel book series, and this one follows the sister of one of the boys in the main series, and it just feels very wholesome. It feels very wholesome, and it's set at Christmas time as well, so it's literally perfect for this time of year. And there's gorgeous illustrations in here as well, and I just love all the little details in here, and it's just a really cute little novella, and I definitely recommend this. Like I said, you can just read this by itself because that's what I did, and I understood everything absolutely fine, but I would probably recommend it in the order that it's meant to be read in. And if you've already read the Heartstopper series and you absolutely loved it, then I would definitely recommend this little Christmas novella. Then we have Baby It's Cold Outside by Emily Bell. This one was so cute. This one was so cute. This one follows Nora and Andrew, and they basically meet on this holiday one year and have a basically like a holiday romance, but it's not quite the right time for them, so they basically make a deal that if they're both single in 10 years time, that they'll both meet under the clock in Dublin on Christmas Eve. So it basically goes back and forth between the past, which is the holiday where they met, and we get to see this kind of whirlwind romance, and then it also follows the present where we're with Nora and it's Christmas Eve, and we're basically wondering whether Andrew is going to show up or not. I just really liked the whole concept of this book, and I really like how we got both timelines. Like we got to see them kind of meeting and the start of their romance, and then we also get to see where they are now, and and if they're single or not, and that's just so exciting to me. I don't know why, it's just so exciting to me. And of course this is set at Christmas time because they agreed to meet on Christmas Eve, and it's set in Dublin, and it just has such a cozy feeling with Christmas in Dublin, and I really enjoyed it. And then we have The Christmas Bookshop by Jenny Colgan. This has such a wholesome, heartwarming feel to it. This one is set in Edinburgh, and we're basically following Carmen, and she's gone to stay with her sister for a bit because she's struggling, she hasn't got a job and she really needs one, and so she goes to stay with her sister, and while she's there she stumbles across this bookshop that is in trouble, and she decides to help the man who's running the bookshop in order to save the shop, and it's just so cute. It is so cute. It's honestly got the perfect cozy wholesome Christmas vibe to it. I also really like how this isn't just a romance as well, and we really got to see like Carmen with her nieces and nephews as well, like the bond that she kind of built with them throughout the book, and I feel like there's a really good kind of character development with Carmen as well, which I really enjoyed. And then we have my favourite Christmassy read from last year, and that's A New York Winter by Isla Gordon. First of all, this cover is just so Christmassy. I love it. This basically follows Aisling, and she's got these 4 goals that she really wants to achieve, and 3 of them kind of come crashing down and she can't do them, but the 4th one, which is move to New York, she realises she still can do. So it follows her moving to New York, and she meets River, who is basically a grumpy, newly single man who lives in New York, and it's very much giving opposites attract kind of vibe. And basically River ends up saying that she can stay with him and giving up his sofa bed for her because there was a mix-up in where she was supposed to stay. And I don't want to say too much about this one because there's a lot that you kind of find out about the characters and that you kind of uncover, but it's just so good. I really enjoyed it. I'm a real sucker for Christmas or winter in New York. I just love it. I love it. And add a cutesy little romance on top of that. I'm so here for it. I'm so here for it. I would really like to reread this one at some point because I just remember absolutely loving it, and I really liked how it had different kind of layers to it, and it was really fun, but there was also some deeper things going on, and the characters were kind of going on their own journey, and I really liked that. And like I said, it was my favourite Christmas book that I read last year. And that's a wrap. I've literally been talking for so long that the light is going down. But I hope this has been some help, maybe giving you some winter or Christmas book recommendations. I honestly just love a Christmas book. There is something about it that I don't know whether it's just because anything Christmas I absolutely love. I love. But there's just something about a good, cozy Christmas romance that just makes my heart feel warm. And I love it. I literally love it. I really hope that you enjoyed watching this video. Please let me know if you did, and I will hopefully see you tomorrow for another Bookmas video.